Okay. Otherwise, the bathrooms are right through there. You'll see them on your left.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
All right. All right. Welcome, everyone. Please stand and join us for a moment of silence followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Everybody, my name is Peter, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is March 17th, 2012. Welcome to the 7 o'clock p.m. Thursday night meeting, the Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Before we start our evening, please remember to shut off or silence your cell phones. Thank you. We send a special welcome to any visitors from out of town. Please stand and introduce yourself. Okay. Also, anyone who may be visiting the Treasure Map meeting for the first time, please stand and be recognized. Finally, if there's anyone here who is at their first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, please stand and be recognized. We're very happy that you came tonight. You're welcome here. All right. If you would like, please come to the welcome table. We have a gift for you once again if you're new. Thank you for being here with us tonight. The Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous believes in working the 12 steps as outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous with a sponsor. There are many home group members here tonight that are willing to be sponsors. If you're new or if you don't have a sponsor, you can stop at the back table during the break and see Scott, and he'll be able to help you out there for obtaining names and numbers of home group members who are willing to sponsor others. So if you're looking for a sponsor, that's a great place to start. The Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous celebrates our sobriety birthdays on the last Thursday of each month. Treasure Map home group members celebrate each month of sobriety for the first 12 months, then each consecutive year thereafter. If you'd like to make the Treasure Map group your home group, please see Randy at the back table, and he'll help you out. He'll give you details. Let's see here. The Treasure Map group of Alcoholics Anonymous is committed to bringing a message of hope to those who suffer from alcoholism. We believe this message is contained within the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and our personal experiences. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, or organization or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Our meeting tonight will focus on the How It Works portion of Chapter 5 of the Big Book. Our Big Book study will begin shortly. If you need a Big Book, please raise your hand and we'll bring one to you. We have Big Books available. It's a Big Book study, so don't be shy. All right, I will just read the announcements here. We have a few while they're handing out Big Books. Online financial support for the Treasure Map meeting is now available. Reoccurring monthly support is deeply appreciated and helps the group fund our meetings, events, speaker costs, coffee, birthday celebrations, etc. For more details, see Randy in the back table, or you can go to treasuremapmeeting.com. Also, if you give online, please grab a tag and place it in the basket as it's passed. Please feel free to take our Treasure Map 12-step cards, as you can see right here. They're a great way to pass along information about the Treasure Map meeting, which is on the front here. Plus, you can place your name and phone number on the back to assist others in the program. So if you want to give out your your information and pass along information about the meeting? Perfect. The study questions for Chapter 5, how it works, which is page 60 through 64, relating to the third step, are on treasuremapmeeting.com and can be accessed right away. We will be covering this section of the Big Book next week. Special events. So on Thursday, September 27th, we'll celebrate all home group members' AA birthdays. So again, if you have a birthday, see Randy in the back, we can get your name on the list. Saturday, October 10th, the 7th annual Elkathon, hosted by District 5, will be held at the Calvary Cathedral in Sioux Falls from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. In support of this event, the Treasure Map Group will be sponsoring the 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. portion of the day. Our topic will be Step 4, Sex Inventory and Ideals, focusing on page 68 through 70 out of the Big Book. Come out and support our local intergroup activities. You can check everything out at SiouxFallsAA.org for details. That's the intergroup website. On October 12th through the 14th, Area 63 Fall Conference will help at the Ramkota Hotel in Rapid City, South Dakota. You can, again, check out the intergroup website at SiouxFallsAA.org for more details. On Thursday, November 1st, we'll be having a very special speaker at the Treasure Map Group. It'll be Don M. from Louisville, Kentucky. He'll be our speaker. Don M. has traveled the world in Alcoholics Anonymous, sharing his experience, strength, and hope. Please pass the word and invite your friends to a night that will be wonderful. So exciting. Coming a long way to see us. Thursday, November 15th, we had our second Welcome Newcomers meeting. At our first Welcome Newcomers meeting, we had 25 people with 1 year of sobriety or less. Our goal is 57 for November. Please pass the word to all who have 1 year or less, although everyone is welcome. Also, we will celebrate with free snacks. District 5, Corrections and Treatment Committee. We're looking for folks to run meetings at the Minnehaha County Jail, the Work Release Center, South Dakota State Penitentiary. If you're going to go to the state pen, background check is required and just requires a minimum of 3 months of continuous sobriety. And you can contact Matt M., and that's matt@mcexpert.com. So, all right. And now I'd like to welcome Megan to read how it works from the Big Book.
I am Megan. I am an alcoholic. Sobriety birthday January 16th of this year. How it works is on page 58. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They have seemed to be born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made the decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we are wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order. I can't go through with it." Don't be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we're willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. C, that God could and would if he were sought.
All right, thank you. And now please welcome Zach to read our 12 traditions as we pass baskets. Thank you everyone in advance for your generosity and support. Tradition 7 states that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions.
Okay. The 12 traditions. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement of AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest the problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thanks, Zach. We talk a lot about home group membership at the Treasure Map group because we believe it's vital to our recovery. What does it mean to be a home group member? Here's a brief excerpt from the AA General Service Conference approved pamphlet on the AA group. Traditionally, most AA group members throughout the years have found it important to belong to one group that they call their home group. This is a group where they accept service responsibilities and try to sustain friendships. And although all AA members are usually welcome at all groups and feel at home at any of these meetings, the concept of the home group has still remained the strongest bond between the AA member and the fellowship. With membership comes the right to vote on issues that might affect the group and also might affect AA as a whole, a process that forms the very cornerstone of AA service structure. As with all group conscience matters, each AA member has one vote, and this ideally is voiced through the home group. Over the years, the very essence of AA strength has remained with our group, which for many members becomes our extended family. Once isolated by our drinking, we find in the home group a solid continuing support system, friends, and very often a sponsor. We also learn firsthand through the group's workings, how to place principles before personalities in the interest of carrying the AA message. Talking about her own group, a member says, "Part of my commitment is to show up at my home group meetings, greet newcomers at the door, and be available to them. Not only for them, but for me. My fellow group members are the people who know me, listen to me, and steer me straight when I'm off in left field. They give me their experience, strength, and AA love, enabling me to pass it on to the alcoholic who still suffers." If you are interested in making the Treasure Map group your home, Treasure Map meeting your home group, please see Randy at the back table at the break or after the meeting. All right, and now it is my pleasure to introduce Nate, our 15-minute speaker from Sioux Falls. So, thanks, Nate.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nate. I'm an alcoholic. I guess we're supposed to give our sobriety dates. Is that right? My sobriety date is July 11th, 2013. However, I haven't had a drink since I've come through the doors of AA, October 10th, 2012. It's not just alcohol for me. It's whatever I can get my hands on. You know, I used to tell people, you know, they say, "Well, what's your drug of choice?" I'm like, "Well, what do you got?" You know, that was my thing. I was told to speak on the How It Works portion of Chapter 5. Is that right? You know, so we just covered a lot of that in the. Do you want me to get closer? Yeah. So we just covered a lot of that. You know, rarely have we seen a person fail. You know, I'm sure, you know, Mike's given plenty of history lessons about, you know, if Bill would have changed one word, he would have said always. Always. You know, never have we seen a person. That's it. Thank you, Bev. Never. People always succeed if they work the steps and if they do it right. You know, how it works, it describes the steps. And what does it mean to me? You know, I love how it works. I love getting up and reading it. There's been a few people that have been to a number of meetings in this room with me. Is that right? Heard me read how it works. You know, it's my favorite part of the day. You know, it's got I read the punctuation. I do it with feeling and verve. You know, because that's how I first read it. You know, myself. It's like, wow. You know, this guy's really animate about this when he's writing it down. Later, I come to find out 100 people wrote it down. You know, shortly after that, you know, it talks about thinking about step 3. You know, and just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? And then they go and describe a bunch of mental twists that I definitely harbor within myself. Selfishness, ego, you know, looking at everybody else rather than myself. Look, at least I'm not as bad as that guy over there, you know. I don't know if anybody in here's done that. I did that a lot, you know. It's like, I could be like Dale, you know, poor Dale. He was in his 60s and just never had a license. And there's a guy that I met, and I always pointed at him and said, at least I'm not like him. And never mind. However, at the age of 27, I found that I was just like Dale. I was at the bar every night, sat in the same spot, told the same lies, same stories. Every few weeks, I'd go to jail. You know, every less than every few weeks, I'd get kicked out of my house. You know, at the end, it was pretty miserable, very miserable. You know, I woke up in Minnehaha County Jail one day, again, and for the first time in my life, I said an honest prayer, and it went like this: "Please help." That was it. I was staring at that shiny piece of metal on the wall. They don't have mirrors in jail. Yeah. And I just got the shiny piece of metal there. So you look a little skewed in it, right? And I'm looking at the guy in the shiny piece of metal, and I don't recognize him. Not because it's warped and skewed, but because the guy staring back at me, wasn't the person that I thought I was. I was encouraged to go to AA by the wonderful people at the South Dakota State Law Enforcement agencies in Turner County, the Sheriff's Department, as it were. And I was highly encouraged to go. And he gave me my first big book. I still have that big book today. I left it at home. Silly me. I went to AA for a long time, and then I tried to work the steps as best I could. But what had happened was I wasn't ready to let go, absolutely. And I was smoking pot. Oh well, 9 months of sobriety, I can't claim. I still can say that I haven't had a drink since I walked through the doors of AA, and that means something to me. My sobriety date, July 11th, 2013. Anyway, after that, after I let go absolutely, I had to redo the steps, all the work that I had thought that I had done, and it was frustrating. And I struggled with I didn't struggle with step one. Are you an alcoholic, Nate? Like, yeah. Oh yeah. Is your life manageable? Hell no. Perfect. Step two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Now, have you come to believe? I'm like, yeah. Let's just say that I have. Move on. Okay. Now, step three. Are you ready to turn your will and your life over to the care of this God as you understand it? No. No, I'm not. I struggled. I fought. And I suffered. You read that section right after the one that we read at every meeting, I can relate to a lot of that. Our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. Now, remove booze and drugs from me for a number of months. I can see clearly. I can think on the things that I've done, and I can look back at who I was. Our troubles are basically of our own making. God didn't do it. Yeah, I can see that. I can see how I treated people. I can see how I was nice to so-and-so so that they would do this for me, or I was intimidating to this guy over here because, I didn't want him to do whatever. And I'm starting to look at myself for the first time. The way that I do things isn't good. Somebody asked me the other day, "Are you a bad dude? Are you a bad guy? Are you a bad person?" I'm like, "I hope not. I've been working really hard at it." He said, "Perfect." When people ask me that, I say the same thing. "Are you a bad dude?" "Yes, I am, but I'm trying really, really hard not to be." Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. It's right after we read the 12 steps, and, those A, B, and C. Our life is so unmanageable. No human power could help us, and God could and would if He were Son. It starts talking about step 3 immediately. Or, what do we do, or just what do we mean, and what do we do? Well, I had many lengthy, breathy conversations with my sponsor about doing step 3. I can't do it. I'm not ready. I don't have what it takes. I want to give up. And he was very patient with me. "No, I'm not going to let you give up. You're going to do this. This is how I did it." I was as agnostic as they come when I came into AA. And today, I have a spirituality that I absolutely rely on. I use it at any given moment, especially in traffic. The thing about it is that I struggled to wrap my head around it. Do you need to understand this? No. Okay, all you have to do is make a decision. Do you want to do the steps? Do you want to be better? Yeah, I do. Perfect. Have you made the decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God? And I'm like, well, I guess so. And he's like, good. Now take action. What does that mean? Pray. Pray for the next right thing. Pray for your higher power's will. Pray, 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 pray. And then whatever you glean out of those prayers, do it. There's no need to be snide to this guy over here. There's no need to puff up your chest and act like you're bigger than that guy over there. There's no need to, add what have you. All the stuff that made me such a bad dude in here and in here. I don't know if I can do that. And he's like, well, just do it today. Okay, I'll try. So I did. And I've been doing that every day since. Step 3 is a daily thing for me. I have to do it every day. I have to make that decision every day and follow it immediately by the action that is set before me. I walk into work, so-and-so's already got an attitude and da, 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 da. I'm like, well, good morning. How are you today? What? I'm okay. Now what's going on? What do we need? Well, okay, we'll take care of it. Rather than, walking into somebody at work just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then I go, oh my God, we're doing this. That's how I used to go about things. It's like, well, he's freaking out. Why can't I be freaking out? Why aren't you freaking out? We should all be freaking out. And it starts for a bad day. I don't know if anybody here can relate to that, but that's some of the stuff that I used to do. And then I'd have a poor attitude about my work day. It's like, oh, came in and we're all freaking out and everything. Oh, God. This little stuff like that, At the beginning, it was stuff like, does my higher power want me to go and put myself in a situation that I might lose my sobriety? No. This is the answer that I came to. Those were the questions that I asked in my prayers. Those were the things that I dealt with then. Add a few days, and those aren't the things that I'm asking about. Those aren't the things that I'm wondering about. Those aren't the things that I'm struggling with today. Oh, I'm about ready to go over time. The things that I struggle with today are consideration of my family, my friends, my total strangers, decency. Maybe I shouldn't make this joke in front of this kind of company. Maybe I shouldn't cuss at the treasure map meeting up on the podium. That's a decision that I had to make before I walked in today. I'm a vulgar dude. Those are the things that I struggle with today. I got to wake up in the morning. All right, Nate, you're an alcoholic. Let's go about your day. Are you going to do your will or are you going to do your higher power's will? I think I'll do my higher power's will. Things seem to work out a lot better when I do. Do I have any defects? Yep. Should I have them removed? Oh, please, take them away. If I run across anybody, should I make an amend? Absolutely. What if I see somebody struggling with the same things that I used to? Maybe a couple kind words and a hand. We're right here. I have to work these steps every day. Step 3 is a big one for me because the way that I used to run my life was an absolute travesty. Today, it's not so much. I'm dealing with things like I just got pre-approved for a house, my first time buying a home. I can do that. I'm having to deal with, I'm up for possibly a promotion at work, depending on if my ethics are in tune with theirs. I'm having my friends ask me to come and speak in front of a mass of people about what this book means to me. How can I best serve my higher power? To the best of my understanding and ability, that's how. 5-6 years ago, you would have asked me, are you going to do God's will today? And I would have said, look out of my face. You make me sick. Today I'm like, I'm going to do the best I can. You know, the change there has been just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And it all started with a small little prayer. Minnehaha County Jail. I believe it's a very spiritual place, you know, so if you can go lead a meeting there or help people there, you know, there's a spirituality all over the place. You know, I've heard that people also find spirituality up in prison too. I found that I've seen the light, but it's the way it was for me. So my first real prayer, none of the whole, you know, get me out of this one and I swear I won't do this anymore, or help me this with, and then I'll do that, or, you know, on and on and on. It was just, please help. And I went and laid down and went back to bed. Later that day, I was encouraged, highly encouraged, to go to AA. And the benefits of not dying and killing myself and harming those around me, the benefits of those things, that's why I still come here. The benefits of not doing those things every day, could never have imagined in a million years. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble on. I appreciate it. I'm over time. You guys help keep me sober today. And that'll pass.
Excuse me. Thanks, Nate. We'll be taking a short break. If you're a smoker, please smoke out of the southwest door and properly dispose of your cigarette butts. I think there's a can out there. So, all right.
It's going.
All right, everybody could start taking their seats. Looks like everybody's there. Okay, and now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Scott from Sioux Falls. So welcome, Scott.
Hey everybody, my name is Scott and I'm an alcoholic. Just about said my last name there. I've been sober since July 19th, 2006. I want to thank Pete for getting here early and decorating for my talk tonight. I really appreciate it. So tonight, Nate did a great job of saying most of the things I was going to say on how it works. So did a good job and we appreciate you coming here. And it was announced earlier tonight that Don M. is coming from Louisville, Kentucky on November 1st. It's a Thursday, and it's a newcomers night. So we want all of you to come back every week, but if you can bring any new people that you know that might be either new for the first time to AA or coming back, or people who might just need to hear a good talk about how AA works, November 1st, put it in your calendars. He's a speaker that I heard early on in my sobriety that had a lot of depth to his story, and it'd just be worth your while to invite people to that. So with that, this is, I'm going to go through the Big Book study. So our website, treasuremapmeeting.com, is a place where you can find our book study. As Mike likes to say, it is a book study, not the book study. It's just a guide to walk through the steps. It's the step study that I've done with my sponsor multiple times in my sobriety. And it's just a good frame of reference on digging a little bit deeper, because what I've learned about Alcoholics Anonymous is that this is not a novel. This isn't just the book that I read to like figure out how I feel about things. This is a text. This has actions that are outlined for me to take. There are a series of actions in here that I have to take, and when I take them, my life goes much more smoothly. And I have been sober now for 12 years, and when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I went to treatment. I didn't want to drink anymore, and I didn't know how to stop. So I went to a treatment facility, and they told me to get a sponsor, work the steps, and go to meetings. And I got out, and I went to a lot of meetings. And I stayed sober for about 5 months that way, and I didn't feel better, and I didn't really, nothing got a lot better in my life. I just didn't drink. So I ended up going back out, and then when I came back in, I got a sponsor, and I worked the steps, and I went to meetings, and my life got better. And it's pretty simple, and we'll go through how it works here. And this is a chapter, it's titled How It Works, and it was great when I got there in the book, because it was like, okay, so this, I'm viewing this as a text, right? So we've gotten to this point right now where this is how it works. So as a new person, I'm going through the book and sitting down with my sponsor. Again, I need help interpreting what this says, because I will read it however I am feeling in that moment or that day, or circumstantially. I won't necessarily read it how it should be read if I don't have somebody to help me through this process. So I guess I'll just start here. I'm going to read a little bit and then stop and go through the questions. Again, you guys don't have the questions, but I'm working off of the sheet from our website. And on how it works, it says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates, they are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. So I'm going to stop there. I don't know about you guys, but I would try to use that as an excuse to not be able to get sober, right? Because I'm just not capable. It's not inside of me. I'm not like, I don't have it. I come and I try and it doesn't work, so I'm going to leave. And that's not necessarily, that's why we go through this. And it says, what the first question is to define the word rarely, because it says rarely have we seen. And, my definition when I looked up was almost never. And Nate said, if it was written a different way, it would never have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. And really the aspect of rarely have we seen a person fail. I've gotten more time in here. I've seen people come in and get sober. And what I know is that these people were telling the truth, right? So I learned some of these truths in hindsight, because people come in, they work the steps, they get a sponsor, and they get better, they get well. And so this rarely have we seen a person fail has held true in my experience in Alcoholics Anonymous. The next question it asks, it says, whose path are we supposed to follow? Who have thoroughly followed our path, and that's the first 100 members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And again, these gentlemen who did this, there's a lot of history that I don't, I've heard and I haven't retained, but as you go through this, I don't know how sober, who the speaker was that said Bill Wilson had what did he have for sobriety? 2.5 years of sobriety 3.5? Yeah, when they started writing this book. And I mean, that's the type of stuff where we were just talking earlier tonight where I've got a few years in and I look at where I'm at today and I want to be better, right? I want to be further along than I am because I just always want to try to be better. And I look at what this first 100 did and what they laid out for us, and that's whose path we're trying to follow. Then the next question here is define cannot and will not. And this is a big one because I was always a will not guy, but I thought I was a cannot guy. I always thought I could not do that. There's no way I can do that. That's just not the way I am. It's too difficult for me. But what I found out when I got a sponsor and came in here was that I'm not a cannot guy, I'm a will not guy. When you say, here's your alternative, you can do this, accept spiritual help or blot out the consciousness of your intolerable situation to the bitter end. That's a choice that I have to make, right? Later on, we're going to talk about a turning point. We reached a turning point in Alcoholics Anonymous. And, this is something, the cannot and the will not. My sponsor has said to me before, is this a cannot or a will not moment, right? I have to constantly appraise what I'm going through and what I'm doing. And if I'm willing or unwilling, because willingness is a big part for me, just willingness to accept the program as it's outlined in this book. And then what does completely give themselves mean to you? So completely give themselves, right? A lot of this stuff seems simple, but for a guy like me, when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I never did anything all the way, because what I was worried that if I tried really hard and it didn't work, then I've got a real problem. So if I just gave it a little bit, half measures, if I just did a little bit and it didn't work, then I could prove to you that there was no hope for a guy like me in Alcoholics Anonymous. And completely give themselves to this program. And it was pretty simple for me in the beginning. My sponsor asked me if I was willing to go to any lengths to stay sober. And at that point in my life, I was willing to go to any length to stay sober. And when I answered that question, yes, he said, remember that, because there's gonna come a point and a lot of times in your life where you're gonna not want to do the work that's in front of you because it's gonna be uncomfortable. One of the things would be talking tonight, right? So I don't want to do this right now, but I'm up here right now because someone asked me to do it and I have the opportunity to share with members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And then what do we got here? We've got, I'll go back to the book. So where did we end there? Chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. If you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. On the grave emotional and mental disorders. So again, that's another excuse that I tried to use to not get sober. I tried to say, because I don't know what my experience is. I'm drinking and using drugs and my life's going poorly. So I'm going to go to a doctor, tell them that I feel bad, I don't feel good, and lie to them about my experiences with chemicals. And then they're going to say, maybe you have this, maybe you have that. And so then I could say to myself, well, that's my problem is this, and I can medicate it in a different way. And then guess what? It didn't work for me. That stuff didn't solve my problems. And so the grave emotional and mental disorders are things that I would use as an excuse to not get sober. And then, is there a difference between having a capacity to be honest and actually being honest? And honesty in my story is a big thing because I'm just a pathological liar. That's who I am. I'm telling you right now, if you ask me, the story is if I'm driving to Target and you ask me where I'm going to say Walmart, and I have no idea why. Like, I don't know why. I just feel the impulse and the need to tell you something that's not true. And it's something that I have to work on to this day because it's just something that from an early age, I had to lie to you to get what I wanted, right? Whether it was I wanted you to perceive me a certain way or I needed you to do something so I could get something from you. It was ingrained in me to live the way that I lived. And again, another reason why when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm like, I don't think I have the capacity to be honest. I mean, seriously, I can't tell the truth. I mean, I've had people that are important in my life say things like, if the truth would set you free, you would lie. That's who I am. So I see stuff like that. I'm like, not going to work. I got to go. AA is not for me. And the beautiful thing about AA is that when I came in the last time and decided that I was broken, none of that stuff was an excuse anymore, because whether or not I had the capacity to be honest didn't really matter anymore because I didn't have the capacity to keep drinking, and that's where I was. So, but anyway, I could tell a bunch of crazy stories about the honesty piece in and out of sobriety, by the way. Like it's something that I deal with my sponsor, with my wife, with my friends. It's just something that I try to be accountable to people because it's just easier for me. If the answer is a lie to make you feel better about the situation, I'm more than likely to want to tell you that lie. So I just have to continue to work on it. Now that I know, if you guys ask me a question later, I guess I'm sorry. Okay, so at some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of these questions on here ask fearless and thorough. So, all right, so I'm getting lost in my question, so I apologize, but what are some of your old ideas about alcohol? So some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas and the result was nil until we let go, absolutely. And it says, what were some of your old ideas about alcohol? And I think for me, my life was so dependent upon escaping reality that alcohol became a part of my relationships. So whether it was with my family or my friends or my coworkers, kind of everything revolved around that. My relationship with God, right? So I was raised in a house that believed in God, but it wasn't like a big theme or wasn't pushed on me or anything. So I believed it until it was uncomfortable for me to believe it, and then I stopped believing it. And then I got to a point in my drinking that I revolted against it, because it's just when I'm faced with the decision of making a good choice or a bad choice, I don't want a consequence. I don't want to have to deal with this God. So we talked about that in prior chapters. We defined the 40 spiritual terms, and that was a helpful experience for me to just say, what is my conception of God? Because I had to come in here and I had to find God. These 12 steps, the result of these 12 steps is a spiritual awakening, right? So if I don't get right with God, I'm not going to get these steps. So I've got to figure it out in my own conception of God. These are all kind of new ideas that come to me in AA. But so my relationships with people, just my life in general, and God are all these things that are intertwined with alcohol. And it says, why do you think you try to hold on to your old ideas? And for me, it was because they were very comfortable. They were self-serving. So my old ideas were all about me, and that's what made me feel comfortable. And I think that letting go absolutely was frightening, because that means that I have to lose control in order to gain something. And that was an unfamiliar scenario. And as alcoholics, I feel like most of us can relate that we have no right to try to hold on and control our lives with. I mean, what got me in Alcoholics Anonymous was not a series of good events, right? I love you all dearly, but I wouldn't be here if I didn't have to be here, because it's just not the thing I want to do on a Thursday night at 8 o'clock. But this is what happens for a guy like me, and then I have to come in here and do these steps, otherwise I don't get better. So we go on, and remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. And this is where they talk about in the original manuscript, which they read at the Sioux Empire Roundup every year, they talk about, it says, you must find him now. So they softened that for us, the first 100 did, but I do think that when we talk about what the purpose of the 12 steps are, it is to find God and find him now, because the sooner I do it, I am powerless over alcohol. I need a power, and God is that power. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. So this is something, half measures, I already talked about that, and it truly, in Alcoholics Anonymous, doesn't do anything for me. If you guys have come in and come out and come in and come out like I did before I got sober, it was always, I just didn't commit to it, right? I'd get to the third step, and I'd say the third step prayer, and then I'd start writing the fourth step, and then all of a sudden I can't make it to a meeting, and you know what, I'm a little bit busy and things are going fine, and then all of a sudden I'm drunk again and I'm crying about how AA doesn't work for me, and it was all half measures. And really, it's a difficult proposition unless you're hopeless. And that's where I was in Alcoholics Anonymous, is that it was to a point where it didn't really, again, none of this really mattered, because I had to do something differently. And it says we stood at the turning point, and my sponsor tells me that at a turning point, there are two turns, right? So there is a turn from something, away from something, to something else. And I'm, turning away from my old ideas and my old habits and to something else, which is my higher power in these 12 steps. And then we go on here, and it says, here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. And let's see, I'm not going to go through all of them because they're not all in the worksheet here. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. Their lives had become unmanageable. So the worksheet will ask questions like, what does unmanageable mean? And I always thought, and it was explained to me later, but I always thought my life was mismanaged. I thought I was doing it wrong. I thought if I could just manage the people around me, or the places around me, or the things around me, that I could control the outcome. And what I found out, that my life is unmanageable. I would do things like sign up for college. 16 credits is full time, so I took 16 credits. I went to classes for a week, then I stopped going for like 12 weeks. So that's 13 weeks in. With 3 weeks left, I go back and I'd make up crazy stories and lie, cheat, and steal, and try to get them to let me into class. And if they did, I'd take that class. If they didn't, I wouldn't. And so these are the things I would do. Then I'd get 3 credits out of 16. Sign up for 16 the next semester, because I don't know about you, but what's going to happen here is I'm going to ace all these 16, and then I'm going to take 16 in the summer, and I'll just be caught up. Nobody will even know what ever happened, right? So I sign up for the next 16. I do the same thing. At one point, I had family come visit me on campus, and they're like, let's go around and look at your classes. And I was like, holy crap, I don't know where they're at. I mean, I did not know where to go. I can't tell you how many of my relatives died or were sick, and I couldn't be at school those days. So I just was killing people off left and right. It wasn't pleasant, but yeah. So, but that's the type of stuff that my life, I thought it was mismanaged. I thought if I just caught up, so if I just fixed all of this stuff before any of you knew about it, then I could be like, how crazy is it? Let me tell you what happened. Like, I graduated college. Let me tell you all the things that happened. By the way, I just graduated college like a year and a half ago after 14 years in college. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen Tommy Boy or not, but I am not a doctor. So anyway, but that's the type of stuff I would do. And it was that type of stuff and everything. It was that I've fallen behind because I didn't take the necessary action to do it right. So if it's work, if it's relationships, whatever it was like, I know that I need to do this thing, I didn't do it today. I'll do it tomorrow. I didn't do it tomorrow. I mean, it was just this constant, I'll catch it all up. I'm going to hide it. I'm going to lie. Nobody's going to know about it until it's all fixed. And then we're all just going to chuckle about it. And guess what happens for a guy like me? The whole world collapses on top of me every time. It's way worse every time dealing with it after it's all collapsed, because inevitably it catches up with me, and there I stand. And that has happened to me before sobriety, and that has happened to me in sobriety, where I just get complacent and I get to a point where it's like, I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that later. Then all of a sudden I've got a problem. Then I'm calling, 7 years sober, I'm calling my sponsor. I'm like, you need to get over to my house. I got a problem. And he comes over and we go through it. It's like, this is stuff we should have been talking about for 3 years, So tonight I'm just going to dump it on you so my wife doesn't walk out of the house, and then we'll deal with it later, Anyway, that was step one. And on step two, it came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And I had a difficult time when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous because I had convinced myself that I was atheist. I didn't know what that meant. I truly had no idea. And then when we get to the chapter, We Agnostics, I read it. I'm like, yeah, I'm agnostic. Cool. They wrote a chapter for me. So we go through that. And what there's a few lines in the big book that were pretty important to me in my spiritual journey, where it's like, who am I to say that there is no God, right? I mean, there's certain lines in the book that stick out with me where it's like, okay, am I willing to believe in a power greater than myself? I don't have to come here and I don't have to have your conception of God. Today, I don't have to have certain scriptures memorized. I mean, it's not about that. It's about being willing to believe that there's something bigger than me. And I think that might have been the most simple way it was explained to me. Is like, do you think you're the center of the universe? And if the answer is no, then maybe something else might be, And so for me, that was a profound moment in my sobriety. And that's still where I'm at today, where it's like, I think I get caught up in this vortex of where the director, I wish everybody around me would do what they needed to do so I could have what I needed to have. And that's just not how it goes. And I don't want that control. I don't want to be the director, but I have to continue to work on it and tell myself and work with other people and look at the opportunities that I've been given to help other people and the people who are willing to help me. And there's just so many things that have happened in AA that help me realize that I'm not the center of the universe. There's so many people out there that are hurting. There's so many people out there that are dying right now of alcoholism, that we can go out and be just that hope, just that little bit of hope, because when I came back to Southside, I sat in the back of the room and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I only went there because my family said I needed to go to AA or treatment, and I wasn't going back to treatment because that was an expensive big book. And so I came back in AA, and there was a guy there who is still a sober member of AA. He's spoken at our meeting. He's a friend of mine today, and he just 12-stepped me like that. It took about 30 seconds, and he saw me. He walked up to me and he said, "How you doing?" Of course, I was doing excellent, guys. That's good. How are you? And he just laid it on me. He said, "Here's my story. If there's hope for a guy like me, there's hope for a guy like you. Give me a call if you need anything." And I was like, I think I can come back tomorrow. And that's where it was. And that's the opportunity that I've been given today. And I think that all of us have been given today, is to go put our hand out to somebody we've never seen, whether they're new or not. We can be of service and helpful to them. Step three, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. This is a story I probably tell from the podium every time. And if you've heard it, I'm sorry. But I was with my first sponsor, and we got to this point, and we read the third step, which is coming up a little bit later in this chapter. And he said, now we're going to get on our knees and say the third step prayer. And I've got to tell you, I wanted to be sober. When I was working with him, it wasn't court-ordered. I mean, I had court-ordered AA meetings, but the pathological liar that I am, I just signed a random name on the slip and never went to the meeting. So I'd never even been to AA. So I come, get on my knees to say the third step prayer with this gentleman, and I didn't show up to AA for 5 more months because I just wasn't there. I wasn't ready. I wasn't comfortable. I hadn't had 1 and 2 weren't done yet for me. And when I came back in, that third step prayer is something that for the first probably 2 or 3 years of my sobriety, I said it every morning on my knees. I don't say it every morning right now because I get up, my alarm clock are 4 little kids. So it's just not the same schedule for me right now. But it's just an important part of my sobriety. That third step prayer was that I was ready. And I was taught again later in sobriety that my decision to turn my will and my life over to God was the decision to work 4 through 12. Right? So my decision is to work 4 through 12, because if I just say that prayer and then stop doing anything else and don't go through with the next set of steps, then I'm not going to get any results. And I have lived that. I understand that. It's been true to me. So then we get on to step 4 and made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And that's where, again, these are new concepts to a guy like me, because I did a 4-step in treatment. And I didn't go to Tallgrass. I think there's some Tallgrass folks here. I love that place. I think it's phenomenal. I went to a place in Aberdeen that was hospital centered, and I basically just wrote a really long essay about my life and then read it to a guy, and he was like, "You're a good guy. You're going to be all right." And I was like, "That was awesome." 4th and 5th step were awesome, guys, just to let you know. And I didn't do it out of the big book. I didn't do it with a sponsor. I didn't do it the way they said. I didn't look at my part at all. That wasn't a part of what I was doing. So when I got here and then someone told me what I needed to do, and I used the Joe and Charlie worksheets. I don't know if they're on our website or not. They may or may not be, but gotcha. We'll get there soon in the next couple of weeks. But it just kind of very easily laid it out for me. And then my sponsor said, we're going to start on resentments, and what we're going to do is we're just going to list all your resentments. We're not going to list why yet, right? So then we did all of that, and the whole point was, again, when I had a textbook and I had someone guiding me through it, it dramatically changed the input, which dramatically changed the output, right? My results were completely different when I had somebody walk me through it who had done it before and gotten results. And I will do 4th and 5th from occasion, so I haven't just ever done one. 10, 11, and 12 are helpful in that, so I don't have to do them all the time, and some other things that I do. But anyway, that's some experience that I have had with it. And kind of got off the questions there. I'm not going to go through all these steps. Okay, it says, do you believe that God could restore you to sanity? It's just one of the questions on the worksheet. And again, in the beginning, I would have said no, but now I know the answer is yes. And it says we came to believe. What does the phrase came to believe mean in step 2? That's we just talked about step 2, but change one's beliefs is the answer that I put down. Came to believe. And so I have a decision to make there. It's not something that necessarily I need to have zapped into me, or that I just need to have a burning bush experience. They talk about the spiritual experience in the back of the book, and mine was of the educational variety that they talk about. Mine was not a burning bush or a bolt of lightning experience. Let's see here. Oh yeah, if the principles are guides to progress, what do we have to do to actually be claiming spiritual progress? And the principles, as I understand it, are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. So for us to actually be claiming spiritual progress is to be actively working the steps. And again, in my experience, the best way to do that is to get a sponsor, go through the book, and work the steps. If you have a sponsor and you aren't getting any action items, you're probably not working the steps. I used a sponsor for a long time just to tell people I had a sponsor. That didn't get me better. I just had a guy's name and phone number that I could say was my sponsor. And he was, I've had a couple like that, but some of them were cool with it and some of them weren't, right? Some of them were like, that's fine, call me your sponsor. And some of them said, I'm not going to be your sponsor if I'm not going to sponsor you. And so I've got about 10 minutes left. I've probably got about 3 minutes really. And then we can open it up for questions, but I don't know that I want to answer any questions. No comment. After I tell you all that I lie about everything, I don't know. I just don't know. But anyway, so this meeting, the treasure map meeting, I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful. It's been around now since February. The home group, Peter read in the beginning of the meeting the importance of a home group. And I have found that in my sobriety, that home group is a vitally important part of my sobriety. When I sobered up, I had a home group that I regularly attended and I had service commitments at, and my sobriety was thriving and vibrant. I did that for about 3 years, and then I got busy in AA. It's funny how AA worked for me. Is I got a sponsor, worked the steps, started to feel better, got a better job, got a wife, got a family, all these things start happening, and then I just start doing a little bit less of AA. And my life got a little more complicated. I don't want to say it was worse or hard or anything, because life, it tends to just be difficult. I mean, there are days where it's just harder than other days, but I started to just kind of take credit for some of the successes that were happening. And I didn't have a home group. I didn't have the group of men around me that were holding me accountable to what this program is about. I wasn't actively trying to sponsor other men. I wasn't doing the things that I knew had kept me sober and consistently close to God, in conscious contact with God. And so I floated around for a while, and I would say that Southside was my home group, and I went to Southside quite a bit, but it was whenever I decided to go, that was my home group. And to me, there was no regular commitment there for me. So again, it was accountability for me. So when the Treasure Map group started up, I'm just grateful to be a home group member here. I have service commitments here. I think that this is a good format. I think it's a good group of people. I would recommend that if you see anybody out and about, we have these cards here to take these with you and to pass them out. It's really not necessarily to have them come here, but it's to put your name and your phone number on there so they know that they can call somebody if things aren't going well or if they need some help. You know, AA has given me so many things that I didn't think were part of the process. Right? So I got a friend getting married tomorrow, who I got to be a part of his wedding day, right? I mean, I can't believe someone's marrying the guy. Shame. But yeah, and right, just FYI, I also got married in Alcoholics Anonymous, which is just, I can't believe someone agreed to marry me, right? So these are the things that happen. I had a sponsor who said, can't date for the first year. Not a problem. I was so crazy. I'm like, doesn't matter to me, you know? Get a year, I'm like, I'm ready to date. Can't date for the second year. You're not ready yet. I'm like, this is outrageous, you know? 2 years and 1 day after I got sober, I got connected with my wife, who I've been married to now for almost 10 years, and we've got 4 children together. And just this process is outrageously amazing to me. And I see things like that. And I've got a group of men around me in Alcoholics Anonymous who I trust, who I can go to with any problem. And it's not just my sponsor, it's other men in Alcoholics Anonymous where I can say, here's what happened. Here was my reaction. And tell me how wrong I am, please. Because I have friends who love me enough to be honest with me, right? And I have friends now that I love enough to be honest with them. And so we've got these relationships in here. And I would just strongly recommend, if you don't have a home group, or if you're here and you're seeking a home group, to talk to Randy after the meeting. There are a lot of opportunities here in service work, and we are just really excited about it. So with that, I will open it up for questions on the first page of how it works. Mike, do you have anything? No? And with that, I'll pass. Oh, she's got one. Dang it. Didn't hear you. Well, that is a question I don't have the answer to, but I will point you to the book. So there's an appendix in the book, The Spiritual Experience, page 567 in your big book. And if you haven't read it, read it. If you have, read it again. But I don't know the answer to that question. No. Thank you. Jane? No? All right, with that, I'll pass. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, Scott. Okay, and let's close the meeting with the Lord's Prayer.
Peter,
Yes.
thanks for chairing the meeting.
Hey, thank you very much.
So how long you been with Paradigm?
There was a lot of those guys like that who
Yeah.
started having some serious legal trouble.
Oh yeah, we knew he was trouble when we first got there. It's like,
Yeah.
this guy's not going to be fun to work with. We knew.
Yeah, this is my way.
The other kid that brings it up in VA and took over.
It's probably Jacob.
I think that's what his name was, the other one.
Kind of big dude.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was Adam.
That's what his name was,
Yeah.
Adam.
He's a hot
Yeah, that's what yeah.
Hey, fucker.
Yeah.
You start saying,
We knew it was trouble.
And it's like,